Hello everybody, Chef Danny Davis here, and I'm with Rio Alexander.
Hello.
How are you doing, sir?
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
What a pleasure.
So we were in Antigua. The weather's not so great today, but the boat show just finished yesterday, and I was a judge at the Antigua Boat Show, the Concourse de Chefs. Yes,
Indeed.
And they do the front of house part as well, right? Which is the stewardess.
Yes, we're also doing the table design competition, which we've integrated into the Concourse de Chef competition so that we can give a little bit of opportunity for interiors to shine and show their perfection and their performance.
Yeah, which I think makes Antigua one of the best shows because it highlights what a charter guest experience would be like. The whole crew come together, and it's been fantastic. I'm sure you've seen the pictures, but I wanted to catch up with you, Rio. I've known you for a few years now on social media, and we've had conversations on the phone, but I've never met you in person.
It's such a pleasure to finally get to spend some time with you, and yeah, the feeling is very mutual. Pleasure.
Yeah, it's a real honor, and to be asked to be a judge is fantastic. Thank you for that.
It is. I feel like it's a great honor. This is my 4th year as a co-producer of the competition with the Chef Elizabeth Lee, and she asked me to come on board to help her produce, but also as one of the head judges. And it's been such a journey of getting to know the world of chefs behind closed doors, because as yacht chefs, most of the time, you never really get to expose what it is that you do because the public never gets to see what you do, nor do you get to be amidst your comrades actually showing off what it is you're able to create. And I think that that's really the beauty of this competition, is that we are able to create a platform for these incredible artists to demonstrate their abilities and to credential themselves ultimately in the eyes of people who really care about what's happening in the industry and who really care about the standards that we're trying to maintain in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, definitely got judged by their peers, right? We had some fantastic chefs on the judging panel.
It was incredible. I mean, this year was just really special. I mean, having a local, very awarded chef from Jimby Bay, which is a world-class resort, and then having Colin as well. I mean, Michelin-starred chef from Great Britain. I mean, it was an incredible panel.
And yourself as well. Tell us, how did you become a chef, and what led you to become a yacht chef?
It's funny. It's a second career for me. When I was living in France, I was attending university in Paris, and the university I was attending, I was there for museum school, and I was studying to work in museums in the high art world. But the university I was attending offered the opportunity for me to take coursework at the Cordon Bleu. And I at that point in my life, I thought I really loved cooking. I've always really liked cooking. And then, so to have that opportunity, so I took it. So what I thought would be 1 semester.
So you did like extra credits?
Well, for credit, you would basically, it was almost like doing a Cordon Bleu for night school, in that you were doing segments that were extended. It wasn't like it wasn't the high octane program, but you would be able to take one segment. It would be like butchery or sauces or pastry, and they would do it over the course of a semester, and they would give you a certificate. And so what was supposed to be just 1 semester turned into me taking coursework over the course of like 4.5, 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And, at that point, I never thought it would be a career, but then later on in my life, it would resurface as I became a private chef, and then ultimately an event chef, opening a catering business, then getting into yachting.
So tell me about the private chef business. You started off by yourself, just offering out your services?
Right. So in San Francisco, I loved throwing dinner parties, and I had a really amazing network of people that were from the art world. So I had artists, and then I had high society. So I had trustees and founding fathers of the arts industry, the arts organizations in San Francisco, and I'd throw these dinner parties. So I'd have this incredible mix of different demographics, and ultimately, my first client was one of the patrons of the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art.
Oh, wow.
Who came to a dinner party that I threw, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I love your food. Would you consider doing this for me on occasion for doing a party?" And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So ultimately, that then went from being one dinner party to being a regular circumstance. And so I had a private chef sort of side career that was substantiating my non-paying art world career.
And then it started to tip the
balance.
And
then, from there, then I sort of really started liking it. And then I started doing sort of private gun hired chef work for the events industry. Mm-hmm. And so I started working for catering companies that were doing highbrow production work.
But mainly just kind of freelancing with those.
Freelancing at that point in my life because I still had a full-time career. And then from there, then the next big jump was that I decided I was going to open my own catering business. And this was in the Hudson Valley of New York.
Oh, right, in New York.
And it was geared towards high society New Yorkers that wanted to do farm-to-table weddings in the countryside. And and it was, it went really well straight off the bat. I was really successful, and I started doing weddings. The average weddings were about 150 to 200 people. And that sort of got me rolling more and more as a chef, but it was extremely seasonal. Mm-hmm. And so that was what led me to yachting, because I had a friend that was working as a chef in the yachting industry, and they were like, "Oh, you're perfect. You're multilingual. You're very classy. You have tremendous diversity in your culinary ability. I think you'd be perfect in the yachting industry." And
so
I thought,
what was the first yacht you worked on?
So the first yacht I worked on was actually a 164-foot Westport named Boardwalk. And,
oh yes, I know Boardwalk.
And so my friend was like, "Oh, they're in New York City. I've got the boat for you." And I walked up to it and I was like, "Oh my God, like here we are. It's a 164-foot yacht," and I had no knowledge of boats. But anyway, I got on board. I did a 10-day charter out of New York City down to the Hamptons, and that was my entree into the yachting world. And ultimately, that started me off on what has now been almost a 17-year portion of my career.
Wow, 17 years. I bet you've seen so much change as well.
For sure, a lot of change. I mean, I was so young and so green at that point, and I really, I didn't have that much experience in the world of opulence of, the ultra high net worth. Mm-hmm. And so that really changed my ability to be a creative artist, but work with the finest ingredients and have this unbelievable audience who wants the showmanship on boats, which I really got off on. It was like a perfect match for my personality. And so ultimately, that really launched the career in yachting. And there were periods of time where I did leave yachting for different opportunities. For the biggest one of it was a 3-year period where I was offered executive chef of a $150 million annual catering company.
Oh, wow. Was that based in New York?
Based in New York City in Tribeca. And I was ultimately at the helm of of this catering business, which allowed me to be in charge of 40 chefs. So I had teams that were devoted to my canapes. I had teams that were devoted to my salads. But I would oversee the whole function of the organism, and we would do, like high society New York events, a la the Museum of Modern Art trustee and gala, and benefactors dinners, and $700,000 bar mitzvahs.
You were like the Wolfgang Puck.
So yeah. So it was a totally different organism, but it was a great challenge, and one that really offered me opportunity to evolve with my skill sets and my career in other directions. I ultimately ended up leaving and returning to yachting, and now I work.
Golden handcuffs brought you back.
Yeah, and then ultimately, now I'm about half and half in yachting and out of yachting. I do.
Yeah, what do you do now? You heard you're on a rotation.
So now I have parlayed into estates work. Ultimately, sort of started with a client from yachting that wanted me to work with them on land, and so I thought, okay, well, being that I've gotten into my mid-40s, the idea of having a bit more of a home base was appealing. And so I have rotational land-based work working for ultra-high net worth clients who travel globally and have homes all over the world.
What's the kind of biggest stress you found as being a yacht chef that you would say you see other yacht chefs coming through now that you'd go back and tell yourself, don't do this or do that? Like, what advice would you give yourself, I suppose?
Well, I think that, the biggest, early on one of my boats that I worked, I started out on sailboats. And after I've been on Boardwalk, I ended up being on some really big grand dams, including sailing on Axia. And we did the St. Bart bucket for several years in a row. And I had a great mentor who really taught me about provisioning. And so when I first came in, I was like making my shopping list based on menus that I'd created, but she sort of mentored me and taught me that I needed to ultimately turn my galley and my stores into my supermarket on the seas, so that I would be able to create anything without having plans. So being able to pivot on a dime and be able to facilitate anybody's needs, whatever they might be, because they were always going to be changing. So I think that, you know, the idea of being able to conceptualize complete functionality and complete diversity in your ability to create as an influence to the way that you provision was a big learning tool for me, and one which ultimately facilitated me being less in the box and more out of the box as a chef, and to be able to perform and pivot the way that we all have to, which I think is a big part of the challenge.
So what advice would you give to someone who's going to enter the competition next year?
Well, number one, be yourself and create menus which are demonstrative of skills which you have, which push the envelope. We want to see things which are original and which we haven't seen before. So old classical standards, no one needs to see these. We've already seen them 1,000 times. We want to see dynamic, creative menus and passion and originality coming from our chefs. And, you know, whether that's pushing yourself in one way or another that you haven't done before, that can be great. But I think that the number one thing that you need to do and think about is originality and creating things which are fun, whimsical, flamboyant, giving a show. This is the charter yacht industry, and what we're here to see is how flamboyant and how much fun you can have with what you do as a creative artist.
Definitely.
So.
Definitely. And is there anything else you want to add to this? Tell us about anything plans for the future?
Well, you know, at this point, what's coming down the pipeline for me, I am in the midst of starting a boutique chef staffing organization where I'm going to start representing chefs that I think are worthwhile in the industry. And the ultimately also a part of what it is that I'm going to be doing is creating a digital componentry where we will be doing interviews and videos of chefs in the kitchen, in a test kitchen, demonstrating their skills, but also their personalities, so that we're able to create profiles and match more, shall we say, gracefully match discerning clients with chefs of tremendous caliber, and, you know, ultimately create some happy marriages in the industry, because I think that there is a tremendous amount of impersonal sort of relationships that occur between staffing agencies and yachts or estates work, where there's tends to be these mismatches because there hasn't been a personal element of presentation between these two different industries.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I think we better end it because there's people pouring into the restaurant now.
Well, I'm so grateful
So
to
it's
be
been an
here with
absolute
you.
pleasure to
What
talk
a
to you.
pleasure. Thanks, Danny. It's amazing to work with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, all right.
To see more from me, go to Behind the Line with Chef Denny Davis on YouTube, or check me out on Instagram at Future Chef Project. To see more from Rio, where do they go?
My Instagram is Rio Licioso or chefrio.com.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Badda done, badda done, badda done.